It began with a voice, soft, convincing, almost holy, whispering to the forgotten hearts of northern Nigeria. That voice belonged to Mohammed Yusuf, a young preacher in Maiduguri, Borno State. To some, he was a savior, to others, a madman. But to the poor, the neglected, and the hopeless, he was the only man who seemed to understand their pain. In the early 2000s, the city of Maiduguri was already a reflection of Nigeria's forgotten corners. Dusty streets, broken schools, corrupt leaders, young men roamed with no jobs, no future, and no faith in the system that was supposed to protect them. That was where Yusuf's sermons found fertile ground. He stood before crowds, calm, confident, and spoke against what he called the sickness of the West. He said Western education was evil, democracy was ungodly, that the true path to salvation lay only in the Sharia law of Islam. And the people listened. Because while the government built skyscrapers in Abuja and Lagos, the North had only empty mosques and hungry mouths. To those who had nothing, Yusuf offered something. A cause, a purpose, a brotherhood. He built a mosque and an Islamic school in Maiduguri. Thousands came to learn. Thousands more came to believe. He promised them a society of justice, where no one would go hungry, where the corrupt would fall, and where only God's law would reign. He called it Yusufiya, but soon the world would call it Boko Haram. Western education is forbidden. At first, the movement was peaceful. They refused to attend Western schools, refused to work in government offices, refused to obey laws they said were not from God. But when the police began to arrest and harass them, things turned dark. Members began arming themselves, hiding weapons in mosques and recruiting from the slums. And in the eyes of the Nigerian government, Yusuf's group had become a threat. It began like a spark in a fuel-soaked desert. A clash between Boko Haram and police in Bauchi spread across northern Nigeria like wildfire. Yusuf's followers attacked police stations, set government buildings ablaze, and killed officers. The military responded brutally. Bullets, air raids, raids at night. Within days, Maiduguri was drowned in blood. When the smoke cleared, more than 800 people lay dead. The government called it victory. But in that victory, they planted the seed of something far worse. Mohammed Yusuf was captured alive, handcuffed, humiliated, and handed to the police. Moments later, he was executed, shot dead in cold blood. His lifeless body was shown on television, a warning to anyone who dared to rise again. But they didn't realize, you cannot kill an idea with bullets. Yusuf's death became the symbol of martyrdom, and from the ashes of his body, a monster began to crawl out. Months later, a new name began to spread in whispers, Abubakar Shekau. No one knew much about him, except that he had been Yusuf's deputy, quiet, intense, and dangerously unpredictable. But when he spoke, even his followers trembled. Under Shekau, Boko Haram changed. No longer a movement of ideas or but odlagi, it became a machine of vengeance. I remember one of the first attacks that showed us what was coming. In 2010, gunmen stormed a prison in Bauchi and freed over 700 inmates. It was a message to the government. We are back! Then came the bombings. Police headquarters in Abuja, the United Nations building, a place meant for peace, torn apart by fire, bodies scattered, smoke rising, and from the ruins, Shekau's voice echoed through a grainy video. This is the beginning of our war. By 2011, Boko Haram had become a ghostly force. They moved at night, striking fear in villages, mosques, and markets. Christians were slaughtered in their churches. Muslims who refused to join them were executed as traitors. Each attack was more brutal than the last, each video more chilling, each speech from Shekau more venomous. He said he would turn Nigeria into a caliphate, and anyone who opposed him would die. But behind those attacks were ordinary people, forced into the madness, young boys who had lost their families, women taken as brides, children turned into suicide bombers. The victims were not just numbers, they were entire lives erased. And the government, they tried to fight back, with soldiers, tanks, and promises, but corruption weakened everything. Funds meant for the army vanished, weapons failed, soldiers went months unpaid. In the north, people began to ask the same question: who protects us now? By 2013, Boko Haram had seized control of vast territories in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. They burned villages and raised their black flags. They imposed strict Islamic law, punishing men for shaving, women for working, and children for attending Western schools. It happened in a small town called Chibok. Armed men invaded a girls' secondary school in the middle of the night. They set classrooms on fire and loaded terrified students into trucks. 276 girls gone, just like that. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Their parents searched the forests, crying their daughters' names into the dark. The world cried with them. #BringBack. Our girls flooded the internet. But for many of those girls, the cries never reached them. Some were forced into marriage. Some died in captivity. Some bore children for men they never chose. And Shekau, he appeared in a video laughing. He said, "I took your girls. I will sell them in the market." That laugh, cold, heartless, almost inhuman, became the sound of evil itself. By 2015, Boko Haram declared its own Islamic Caliphate. They had their own towns, their own soldiers, their own flag. The Nigerian government, under pressure, launched massive military offensives. Neighboring countries, Chad, Niger, Cameroon, joined in. Together, they began pushing Boko Haram back into the forest, into the mountains, into the shadows. But like smoke, they never fully disappeared. And as the world thought they were weakening, another shift happened. Boko Haram pledged allegiance to ISIS, calling themselves the Islamic State West Africa. But that alliance didn't bring unity. It brought division. Inside Boko Haram, many fighters began to question Shekau's methods. They said he had gone too far, killing Muslims, bombing mosques, enslaving children. Shekau called them traitors, died and executed them by the hundreds. The group that once preached purity had become a kingdom of blood. And yet, amid all the chaos, one truth remained. This war was no longer about religion. It was about revenge. It was about power. It was about survival. The north was burning, millions displaced, thousands dead, and somewhere in the middle of that chaos, Shekau, the man of fire, was preparing for his final act. That was how it began, from one man's dream to purify his faith, to a movement that drowned a nation in fear. But this was only the beginning, because the story of Boko Haram didn't end with Yusuf's death or Shekau's rise. It was about to reach its darkest chapter. I remember when the rumors began, whispers carried by the wind from deep inside the Sambisa forest. They said Shekau was dying. Some said he was wounded. Others said he had disappeared. But nobody dared to believe it. Because for over a decade, Abubakar Shekau had been a ghost that refused to fade. He ruled with fire and fear, not just over Nigeria, but over the very souls of his followers. To them, he was not a man. He was a prophecy, and even in death, they believed he would return. After the Chibok kidnappings, the world finally looked at Boko Haram. International forces pledged support. Nigerian troops advanced. Drones scanned the forests. But Shekau had turned Sambisa into a fortress. A world of tunnels, hidden camps, and mines. It wasn't just a battlefield. It was a kingdom of fear. In that forest, children became soldiers, wives became captives, and faith became a weapon. Every child learned to load a rifle before they learned to write their name. Every woman knew the sound of boots meant a new night of terror. The Nigerian army fought, village after village, forest after forest. But for every base they captured, another would rise from the trees. This war was no longer fought with just bullets. It was fought with hunger, fear, and silence. I once met a soldier who had spent 5 years fighting Boko Haram. He told me, the hardest part isn't shooting, it's listening. Listening to the screams in the forest at night, knowing you can't reach them. He said, You don't fight Boko Haram in the day, you fight them in your dreams. By 2016, the cracks within Boko Haram began to show. Shekal's obsession with power and brutality had alienated even his most loyal commanders. He executed those who questioned him, sometimes their entire families. He killed imams, fighters, anyone who disobeyed. Then came ISIS, far away in Syria and Iraq, but watching closely. When Boko Haram pledged allegiance in 2015, ISIS had hoped for a disciplined branch of their global caliphate. Instead, they got chaos. ISIS sent messages, orders, telling Shekau to stop killing Muslims, to focus on military targets, but Shekau refused. He wanted no one's control. So the unthinkable happened. Boko Haram split into two deadly factions. On one side was Shekau's faction, ruthless, unpredictable, driven by rage. On the other was ISWAP, Islamic State West Africa Province, more organized, more strategic, and directly aligned with ISIS. For the first time, Boko Haram turned on itself. Brother against brother, faith against faith, terror eating its own flesh.